Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat!
Cocaine.
Durfee.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the good chef Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt Marchesini. Tonight, we've got our locks for week one, and we're going to dig into the depth chart and our thoughts on the two deep that was released by the football team to start the week. We're also going to give our predictions for the game against Semo on Saturday, September 2nd. And Chef is going to give his recipe for success for the game against the Red Hawks. Boys, I'm just excited tonight because I received my package from Matt from the K-State consignment sale, which included a K-State women's practice jersey that really accentuates
my God.
handles.
You know, it was a very stressful time in that room, and I did everything that I could to get my boys something. And I just saw that jersey. I'm like, dang, Dean Wade's practice jersey. Bob's going to love this. Ship it off to him. And now it makes sense. He can barely get in it. It's a women's fit jersey.
Yeah, considering Dean Wade is 6'9", there's no way this thing would have fit that dude. He is a full 7 inches taller than I am.
I don't know, you know. I don't even know who is number 32. I got to look here. Do we got a 32? Not this season or the last season.
Yeah, may have to go back a few rosters.
May have to go back. 1920. What if this was like
1920?
No.
Who was on the 1920s K-State women's?
We had a really great great Nike contract in 1920. That's what they're trying to base this year's out of.
Anyway, we are tonight. We're talking through some of this stuff, and if in case you missed it, we are dropping our prediction or not our prediction pod, our preview pod with Sam Herder from Hero Sports. He's the senior FCS analyst for Hero Sports, and he helped us preview SEMO. So if you haven't caught that yet, check out that episode. It dropped earlier this week. But with that, we didn't get into our predictions. We didn't share what we thought our thoughts were for the game this Saturday. So we'll go around the horn. We'll start with Chef and his recipe for success, and then we'll all round it out with our thoughts on the game, what we think is going to happen, and then we'll share our predictions before we get into our week one locks.
Yeah, let's do that. So for my recipe for success versus SEMO, you know, I don't necessarily think we need a recipe for success. No disrespect to SEMO. You know, I think this team has what it takes to just, you know, kind of be a little vanilla, to throw another culinary term in there, and kind of coast to this. But for me, I think the recipe is gathering the ingredients for this team. What are we going to see? What do we need in the kitchen to make this glorious recipe throughout the season constantly? You know, a repeatable, standardized recipe that we can all repeat at any time. So for me, when I think of like the ingredients of what this team could be, the run splits for DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward. What are they going to be? What are we going to see in that first game? How are we using Trayshawn Ward? How are we using these weapons that we have? You know, wrinkles for Ben Sinnott. We'll talk about him on the depth chart. You know, all Big 12 fullback. Will we see him a lot at fullback? Will we see him at what we think we're going to see him at tight end, split out wide? How are we going to see Ben Sinnott used? And then also, do we have the right stuff at corner? Do we have the right ingredients to mix together on this defense to make, you know, a repeatable Big 12 champion recipe? I want to see that. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm not going to lie. I laughed my ass off when you said the recipe is to get the ingredients, but then it made more sense as you started to talk about it. So I will give you credit there because it made a lot more sense when you finished than it did the time that you started.
I really
they
just
had
wanted
me
to
in the
say
first half.
no shit.
They had me in the first half, but it makes sense, man. Leave me out of this.
That's your segment. How do we can't leave you out of it?
Quit bullying me, guys.
God damn it.
Matt, is your recipe the ingredients or do you have something else on the docket?
The recipe is
What do you have in the pantry?
yeah, it's whatever's about to expire in the fridge, and you're gonna whip it up and put it in a pan, and you put some Tony Chachere's Cajun seasoning on it, and it's good, right? Like,
is that the green bottle?
Yeah,
is that the green?
Yeah.
Tony Chachere's.
I fucks with that.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
yeah. We need
Not
some.
enough salt.
We need some Tony Chachere's on Saturday.
Hashtag
team
Okay.
needs it.
ads.
We're good.
Hashtag no
I'm gonna get you. Okay, Tony Chachere's. I love it. We're not gonna make it through
Let's
this.
do this shit.
we're not
Let's
gonna
do
make
this
it
shit.
through.
It's time. It's time. Let's go through and tell our predictions for this game. I'm excited. I'm gonna predict the over/under on fireball shots will be 4.5.
Oh Lord.
First
we-
prediction.
Are you taking those straight out of the little mini bottles?
No. I got a big boy bottle.
Ooh.
Big boy bottle. You know, it's like
Costco
a
size.
yeah.
Have you
Costco
seen those? Have you seen the kegs?
What? No.
You've never
No,
seen the
no.
kegs?
They have a keg of Fireball now?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big like keg, but it's like yay big.
Like those little pony kegs that you can buy at Costco,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Breck beer.
Oh my
Like,
god,
Yeah.
$75.
honestly, that seems pretty affordable.
They sell them at
Like a
Total
good deal.
Wine. Oh no.
Yeah, I
Baby.
saw those the other day, and I was like, damn. I wonder if my boy could do a keg stand off of the mini fireball shots.
In the Fireball costume. Okay, so
Yeah.
Homecoming is going to be real sketch this year. I see.
You're gonna make me hide my child's eyes from seeing what he's gonna witness at that tailgate.
Look, you gotta show them early, man. You gotta show them early. You know, they'll be prepped.
I'll for me for the over under fireball shots, it's guaranteed 1. So I'll set it at 1.5 for me because I might take a second, I might not, but
That's like the Tulane game last year. The Iowa State game, 1 fireball shot.
did I only have 1?
I'm just saying this seems like a pretty low scoring game.
I had definitely more than that because you could smuggle them in the stadium.
But for me, I'm just getting off of work, so I'm
I'm just saying if touchdowns to fireball shots have a correlation here, then
Mhm.
I don't like.
Oh Lord Jesus! Then I need more. Oh God! I'm gonna have to have more fireball.
Yeah.
I'll
sounds like you're going to Total Wine.
Yes, I will.
No free ads.
No free ads.
All right.
Yeah. So 4 is a great number. 4 fireball shots is great.
So prediction wise, Matt, what is your actual prediction for the game?
My actual
What is your
prediction.
actual score?
Yeah. My prediction for the game is going to be 38-17, which if you did just listen to the Southeast Missouri preview podcast show episode, everything prior, our FCS friend Sam did say that same score, but I do think 21 points is kind of a good margin. I believe in the hype. I believe that this team will start in their first game and be business. This is business for them. They're going to have an incredible atmosphere at home, despite it being 169 degrees outside. But I really think that this team is going to go in prepared. They know that the Southeast Missouri State team has the potential to fight really hard. I mean, there's a reason why they're preseason ranked 11th best in FCS, so you can't overlook that fact. But I think Will Howard's going to really start off the year very strong. I think we're going to see Trayshawn Ward and DJ Giddens get a lot of work, get opportunities to score, and maybe it'll be Rubley time or Avery Johnson time at the end. I don't know, but I'm thinking 38-17.
That's a great number. I mean, for me, I'm a little more confident than you are. You're a little
typical
fiery fireball Matt. So I'm going to go 55-13 Power Cats. Let's go. My little take on it, I got everything that you're going through. I hope we get a little test in the first half, but with my score prediction, I hope we just kind of run them out, to be honest with you. I want it both ways right now. For the long term of the season, I think we need a little test, but we'll get one with Troy. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, 55-13. Hot take, 3 redshirt freshmen will score touchdowns.
3 redshirt freshmen. Do you want to name who they are? Who you think they might be?
Okay, I got Garrett Oakley,
okay,
Braden Lofton. So that's 2 tight ends. And then redshirt freshman on defense, VJ Payne, scoring a touchdown. Is he not a sophomore? Or did he redshirt? He might not have redshirted.
He's a sophomore.
But it's a defensive redshirt freshman. So boom.
I like that.
Wow.
I like that a lot.
Hot damn.
All right. Well, I've got the Cats 45-10. I think Will Howard throws for 5 touchdowns and we get Rubes in mop-up duty, but Will Howard will break the single game touchdown record for K-State quarterbacks passing in the history of Kansas State football.
How big of a deal would that be? Well, like, would it be? I mean, it's obviously an accomplishment, but like, it came against SEMO. Would you feel a little different because it could have came last year versus Oklahoma State, but would it feel different because it came against SEMO?
No, because I think you bring up a great point. He tied the record with the Oklahoma State performance. So if he does it again and does it in a game against a nobody, that just, I think, bolsters his case for being one of the best quarterbacks in K-State history, depending on some of the other stuff that could happen this year. If he ends up throwing for potentially 300 or 3,000 yards, if he ends up breaking the single season touchdown record, which is 24, I think we talked about 24 touchdowns in a season. So
what was that, L? Or was it Jake? I think it's L. L. Robertson.
Not off the top of my head. We talked about it.
Matt's on the case. He's on it. Because Jake Waters had a pretty damn good season too, but I don't think he broke it. I think it's L. Either way, I mean,
Josh Freeman. No, single season. L.
Yeah,
Robertson.
L. Robertson.
Yeah, single season was L. Michael Bishop was second with 23. Matt Miller and Jake Waters are tied at 22 for third place.
And it's nuts because he really only threw to 2 people, which is bananas.
Right. Well, you have our predictions, including our guest. And our guest, Sam Herder, had also picked 38-17 Cats. So you've got a clean sweep here. You can make the choice or make the decision of whether or not that ends up boding well for us or not based on the outcome of this game. But we'll get there when we recap the game next week. Next, we're going to talk about our week 1 locks. And if you were with us last year, we had Bob's locks and we had Fireball Matt's locks. And we did this every week where we would just pick like 5 or 6 random games, sometimes Big 12, sometimes otherwise. We're adding a little bit more structure to it this year. So each of us, including Chef, and if you remember from last year, if you've been an OG listener of Cocaine Willie, Chef's locks never really quite worked out well for him or for any of the rest of us.
Chef's unlocks.
Chef's
you guys are just adding me. You guys are just adding me to this to make yourselves feel better. That's kind of all it is.
No, we want some friendly competition, like aka like a bottom feeder sometime that you just like need
to laugh and point at me while I'm on the bottom. Just ha ha ha. Well, I'm gonna prove you guys wrong.
I mean, if we go back and look at the Big 12, or not the Big 12, if we look at the bowl predictions, I do believe that I won the bowl predictions when we did our pick'ems for that, if I remember correctly. But
you know, but it's okay.
Bragging rights. But whoever wins this season will obviously have bragging rights and going into next season. But we're all going to have our own predictions. We're going to pick 3 Big 12 games each week. We're also going to pick 1 national game of the week and 1 sicko game of the week. And leave sicko to your own interpretation. I have my interpretation of sicko, which we'll get to here in a minute. But you may interpret a sicko game as UMass versus New Mexico State in week 0. That's what I would typically think of as like, this game is going to be between 2 terrible teams, but maybe it ends up being a contest. Or it's an FCS team or a G5 team that comes in and beats the brakes off of a Power 5 team. So we'll get there when we get there, but I'm going to start it off. I'm going to go with Bob's locks for week 1 for the Big 12. I'm going to pick a future and former member of the Big 12 to go into Fort Worth Amon G. Carter Stadium against TCU. The Colorado Buffaloes, I have them plus 20.5 against TCU. A lot of people are talking shit on Deion Sanders, but you kind of also have to look at the quality of the recruits and the transfers that they brought into that program. I'm just saying, I don't think TCU is going to be all they're going to be cracked up to be this year. I think they're going to have a hangover after last year's season, and they also don't have Max Duggan. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup between Colorado and TCU that I think could be a decent enough litmus test for both teams coming into week 1 of the season to see where those two teams end up later in the year. Secondly, I'm going West Virginia at Penn State. I'm going to pick the Mountaineers plus 20.5. Again, these are spreads. I'm just picking West Virginia to cover. I'm just picking Colorado to cover. But I do think both of those teams are a little, I think Neil Brown might have a little bit more in the tank, potentially. I think that team could win 6 or 7 games this season. Who knows what happens? And then finally, I've got UTSA at Houston. UTSA is favored by 1.5. I'm taking the Meep Roadrunners. I think Houston sucks. I think Dana Holgerson's going to be the first coach to get fired out of the Big 12 this year. He is god-awful, and he's been god-awful for a number of years, or at least middle of the road. If he couldn't do what he should have done last year with the talent that they had at Houston returning, you've got a guy like Clayton Tune, who's now, taking practice squad reps, for the Dallas Cowboys, if I remember right.
Arizona Cardinals.
Yes. I watched a preseason.
He could be a week 1 starter.
He could be a week 1. They just released Colt McCoy.
Starter.
Oh my God, they released Colt McCoy?
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune.
Also, I got a question about Bob's statement he just said. You think Dana Holgerson's going to make it longer than Neil Brown?
No, the opposite. I think Neil Brown's going to make it longer than Dana Holgerson. I think Holgerson's going to be the first coach that gets fired in this current iteration of the Big 12.
Really? I mean, Neil Brown has to go through Pitt and freaking Penn State. He's going to be 0-2 no matter what.
You listen to me. West Virginia is in a very bad spot financially right now, and they owe him every single penny of his contract, regardless of whether they fire him or let him run out the entire contract. There's no graduation with the buyout to where it decreases year over year. So it's kind of a bad look when you've got a school who's struggling to fund certain departments, ends up having to pay a coach X number of millions of dollars. So, and this comes from friend of the pod, Jeremy and Brandon Phoenix from the Raspy Voice Kids, who came on last year to help us preview West Virginia. They said if Neil Brown, unless he has a bottom of the barrel year where he wins 1 or 2 games, they'll keep him around.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. It's just not possible
financially. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Shout out to Raspy Voice Kids. All right, moving on without interruption this time, maybe, to my national game of the week. I picked the South Carolina Gamecocks against North Carolina Tar Heels in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm doing Monty Putnam proud. I'm taking South Carolina plus 2.5 in a matchup between the Carolinas. And then my sicko game of the week. I'm going to endear myself to the K-State fan base here, but there's no line available for this game because it's against an FCS opponent. So good luck trying to find a line. I could not find one for the life of me. I think later this week we might have one. But I've got Northern Iowa at Iowa State. Northern Iowa is a top team in the Missouri Valley Conference in FCS. They're going into Iowa State. This matchup is always close when these two teams play, and it's always close when UNI plays Iowa as well. The line is unavailable, but I'm taking Northern Iowa outright. If I had a chance to bet on it, money line, I would.
This dude is nuts.
Wow.
Hot take central.
Hot
Yeah,
take
baby.
Central. Man.
Don't get hotter than Fireball Matt, though.
You know it. All right. Let's go Fireball Matt's locks. Start with the Big 12. I'm going the complete opposite of Kamish. Penn State is going to cover the 20 against West Virginia, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 28 or 30. I think Penn State is good. It pains me to say it, but I think West Virginia is just not going to be very good at all. I think they're going to go like 3-9 this year. And if they keep Neil Brown at 3-9, hey, if they can't afford to fire him, whatever, that sucks for them. But I think they're running into Happy Valley and they're going to get completely destroyed. Wyoming is hosting Texas Tech, and they are 14-point underdogs, Wyoming. I think they're going to cover the 14 at home. That is not as much as a diminisher on Texas Tech, but playing a game like that on the road in your first game of the season is always tough. And you're going to have Wyoming's going to be pretty hyped for that game, especially bringing in a Big 12 team to Laramie. So I am going to go with Wyoming to cover the 14, and then BYU covering 20 points against Sam Houston. I don't like that I did that pick, but I had to say it, and now it's official. But Keaton Slovis is the the Pitt quarterback who is transferred to BYU. He did bring Pitt to whatever hell that bowl game was, Peach Bowl they went to last year, and they lost. I can't remember. Wait, did they not? No, that was Kenny Pickett 2 years ago. Oh my God, I'm a dumbass. Whatever. BYU to cover against Sam Houston. That's going to be an 0-1 for me. National game of the week. I am going to have. I'm picking Florida State to cover the 2.5 against LSU. I do think Florida State actually will win that game, but I'm going to take the points. I think Florida State will be a sneaky team in the ACC this year. That'll be a tough conference to predict. And then the sicko game of the week, a.k.a. the Russell Buchanan game of the week. I'm picking Utah State to cover against Russell's Iowa Hawkeyes. Utah State is a 25-point underdog. Will there even be 25 points scored in this game? That's the thing.
Will Brian Ferentz lose his job because this weighs down his average of 25 points a game that he has to meet contractually in order to be retained as the offensive coordinator in Iowa?
Cade McNamara is going to be, if he plays, because he is hurt, I think. I'm not sure. The reports are wild. But, that could be a salty Iowa team.
Can Iowa score? I am only picking this because
I think they can.
I don't think Iowa can score 25 points right now.
I think we're going to be – I think if Cade McNamara plays, we're going to be fooled. You're going to be –
You know what? I'm going to take that fucking bet, all right? They have to prove to score 25 points, and then I will lose this game, whatever. They should build a monument if they can do that.
Now we're talking picks with me because this is where their ears need to perk up because I'm dropping gems, baby. My 3 Big 12 games. My first one, Kent State to cover 36 points versus UCF. No, don't tell me I'm fucking cutting out.
No, you're fine.
Oh, fuck. God damn it.
Jets locks.
Jets
Jets locks.
Oh, shit, my bad.
Putting out gems, baby.
Okay.
Go
Well,
on.
anyway, I got them. 36 points is so much. I know UCF is going to be explosive and all that, but I think they're a heavy run team, and 36 points is so much. And with a Kent State team, they lost a shit ton, but they kept it close with OU last year, so whatever. Arky State versus that very OU team I'm talking about. Dylan Gabriel healthy. I mean, they'll cover 35. 35 points, give me that. Minus 35. Let's do it. Why not?
You've picked like the two biggest games with the two biggest spreads.
That's you know how fucking hard it is.
They're gems, Matt.
Those are gems, baby. And then you want a high spread? Why not another one? Texas State versus Baylor. Baylor, 27.5 points. They can do it, man. What's his Blake Chafin? Gonna be slinging that thing, baby. Okay. Now we're getting into the national games. And this is just the easiest pick for me because we have the worst FBS team in the country. And they're only 6.5 point dogs at Rutgers. Northwestern they'll never win a game, and they're never going to cover anything. So just bet against Northwestern every week and you'll be fine. But I got Rutgers minus 6.5. Give me that. And then my sicko game. This is a shout out to the Aggieville Alley Cats. Ace Edwards, he loves some Tyrone Howe at ULM. But their dogs to Army at home? No way, dude. Come on, ULM. You guys can keep it within 10 to Army. Army stinks.
Okay, so before you get too in with the Texas State thing and thinking Baylor's just going to run up the score on them, I would like to point out that Texas State has transfers at quarterback from Arkansas, Auburn, Baylor, and New Mexico State.
Okay,
No,
was the quarterback from Arkansas?
They have TJ Finley from Auburn.
Was the Arkansas quarterback KJ Ferguson or KJ Jefferson?
Hornsby.
Okay, then the quarterback stinks because KJ Jefferson was the best quarterback on that team, and all he could do was, run 4 yards Colin Klein style into the back of their own lineman. So,
can we talk about how you picked two sicko games because Northwestern and Rutgers?
That's a sicko game. That's not a national game of the week.
Fuck no.
Dude, so TJ Finley at Auburn was 70 for 128 in 2021 and 33 for 53 in 2022. He has an average passer rating of 120.7.
Is he the starter though?
He's the starter at Texas.
He almost beat
State.
Auburn. Didn't they almost beat Auburn last year?
He played for Auburn.
He played for Auburn. Was it the Alabama game?
Yeah, or they almost beat the Alabama last year, right?
Yeah.
Who, Texas State?
No, TJ Finley when he was at Alabama. He played. Who was the starting quarterback at Auburn?
They may have a more explosive team than yours.
No. He wrote it down. You can't change it.
I'll keep it. Keep it. Watch Baylor. Baylor's got probably the best running back room in the Big 12.
But I think we will have a conversation in between the next recording as to what the true definition of a national game is versus picking two bottom feeders in the Big Ten and considering it a national game. I would be a sicko if I am on Big Ten Network Channel 9 watching that game.
Okay, mind you, that is the second best conference in the country, so I don't want to hear about it.
Oh, come on. This would be like
out of here.
Oh my God. I can't. No, this is like a matchup between Cal and Stanford in 2025.
Dude, I live in Big Ten country. I have the Big Ten network.
Northwestern doesn't even have an active head coach.
Does it matter? National game. It's one of the.
Who's the starting quarter? If you can name one of the starting quarterbacks?
Well, I'm gonna go with Rutgers, and it's probably some dude with an Italian name because they always seem like they have.
I'm in the middle of watching The Sopranos for the first time. So
They
yeah,
do. They
you
always
got
have
Jackie
a quarterback with an
Aprile at
Italian name.
quarterback.
I bet you
Rutgers
$1
football
their
quarterback.
starting quarterback is an Italian, like
Ross.
Jackie
super.
Aprile.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm looking this up right now. I swear, if this is some, I know who you're talking about from.
Gabagool.
Yeah,
Someone bring me the
Gabagool.
man of
yeah, the
gods.
Gabagool.
No fucking Big Ziti?
Oh my god. Okay, quarterbacks. I gotta name these quarterbacks. All right, Gavin Wimsett, Evan Simon, Johnny Shepard, Colin O'Sullivan, Braden Oliver.
Jesus.
They've got a bunch of Irish people.
Yeah, they have a bunch of Irish people. Yeah, they should have been playing last week.
Shane O'Connell.
Jackie O'Sullivan.
I'm pretty sure Peyton Thorne, who's the Michigan State quarterback, is at Northwestern now. I'm pretty sure.
No, he's at Auburn.
Speaking of
Peyton Thorne's
speaking
at
of
Auburn
dudes-
now?
Peyton Thorne's at Auburn. And he's
speaking
the
of
starting quarterback.
dudes that transferred to Rutgers, Josh Youngblood is now a Delaware Blue Hen.
Yeah, I did look that up last week when I posted that question.
Those are.
All right.
I love those style uniforms. That wing helmet. Oh my god, that's
I mean, the Michigan knockoff helmet.
Well, Delaware has Joe Biden, so eat it.
It's Jover. It's Jover. Well, do we want to talk about the two deep?
I do.
All right, let's talk about the two deep. Just a couple of notes on the two deep that I thought were interesting. We've got 5 guys who are true freshmen who are on the two deep. You've got Avery Johnson, who is listed as an or at QB2 with Jake Rubley. You've got Jace Brown, who is listed at wide receiver as an or with Shane Porter, which was another interesting note that Chef brought up of Shane Porter being in over Seth Porter, who's a special teams captain, which is fascinating. You've got Asa Newsom at will linebacker, Jack Fabris at Jack safety, and Austin Romaine at Mike linebacker. So I guess just to kick it off, what do you think about those 5 true freshmen being on the two deep? And we kind of already talked about this with the offensive and defensive previews, but we haven't gotten into the specifics with guys like Jack Fabris or Jace Brown. So I'm just curious what your thoughts were having those 5 true freshmen on the two deep.
For me, I mean, you obviously knew Avery was going to headline that. I think we all kind of knew that it was a battle for that too. I think if you listen to the rumblings that Jake Rubley they're so confident in him and he's taken a very huge step. And for Avery to still be hanging with him and getting that or tag that's great. That's a problem that you'd love to have. Then all those 5 freshmen, I think, are deserving. Jack was it Jake or Jack Fabris? Jack Fabris.
Jack.
That one surprised me the most out of all those names because we heard the Austin Romaine. We heard about Jace Brown. He was highly recruited, and he is that slot build that we like to see. Florida guy, probably taking that RJ Garcia role. Getting the Florida kid in that has all the skill set. But Jack, my God, I thought that guy he's under recruited in my opinion, and obviously he had the connection with the K-State and his dad is this his dad? Or, I mean, he's so old. I don't know. But anyway, I mean, his dad being the D-line coach for so many years under Bill Snyder, it's awesome to see. When you got your bottom of your recruiting class, for what they say in terms of stars, making it on the two deep as a true freshman, that bodes well. That bodes well for that recruiting class, that from top to bottom, there's going to be production. I'll let Matt talk about those freshmen if you want, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, to echo a couple points, nobody's surprised about Avery Johnson being where he is, still battling with Jake Rubley. I wouldn't be surprised if it's trending more towards Jake Rubley, just thinking about the redshirt situation of what you're trying to do with Avery Johnson. But it is a good point in thinking about a lot of these freshmen and the way that the transfer portal is, and we have guys that are graduating early, etc. You can't necessarily guarantee that these guys are going to be here for 4 years or 5 years. And so, it's all about this season, trying to win as many games as possible. And so for some of these players on the 2 deep, they may see time in more than those 4 games because you're not really thinking about, oh, you know, we're going to redshirt and stay potentially for an additional season. Jack was a huge surprise for me. I'm pretty sure he was a 3-star recruit, but I'm trying to remember if he was later signing in the class or if he was early.
He was early. He was early.
But anyway, so the fact that he's showing up at the safety position, it's one of 2 ways. It bodes well because you have somebody who maybe was, viewed differently from a talent perspective, or we're struggling a little bit maybe at that position and he's bringing some needed energy, and maybe it's a little bit of a proof situation of you guys need to step up. But it is good to see him. Asa Newsom, I wasn't necessarily super surprised, but I think out of this entire class that we signed this past year, he's going to be one of the top guys that we have. I just truly believe he's got the talent. He plays the part of somebody who's going to grow and really be a leader in the linebacker position. And then Jace Brown, we've heard a little bit this fall. The fact that we can have a freshman show up in the wide receiver position, I think is mightily important, because that is a position that I would say recently we've consistently talked about the depth at wide receiver and what can we do to improve that depth. And we've seen recruiting classes here where we're getting guys that, are proving the point of bringing in more talent so that our quarterbacks feel like they have reliable guys to throw to. So having a true freshman show up there, I believe is absolutely huge. I hope out of these 5 true freshmen this upcoming Saturday, we do see some of them play, just so we can see them get some snaps, maybe make some good plays. But overall, this is exciting. I mean, the fact that you can have, the 2 deep is a 2 deep. You have guys who are going to be clear-cut starters, and these guys are going to be kind of waiting in the wings. But especially with the way that we've substituted on the offensive side and the defensive side, I expect that we could see these guys in the first half of this game on Saturday.
But for me, I mean, you bring up those 5 freshmen and Jace Brown. To me, it's more surprising who we didn't see. A guy like Trey Spivey was all the rave, and he's a wide receiver, true freshman that didn't get mentioned. And maybe it's a depth at that certain position that he plays on receiver, the outside receiver, that he didn't get the nod there. Or another guy we heard, Chidi Obiazor, he didn't get mentioned, and he was a huge shout out by Coach Kleiman himself, saying that he has the frame, he has the body, and who we're going to rely on for that maybe 4th defensive end, and Cody Stufflebean makes it. So I expect, because like you said, Matt, it is a 2 deep. It's what it is. But the way we rotate so much, I think you're gonna need more than 4 defensive ends. I think you're gonna need more than 6 safeties. I think you're gonna need more than 6 wide receivers. So for me, I'm not fretting that they didn't make the 2 deep, but I'm also like, what happened with this week of practice or the week prior to that, the last week of camp, where they didn't get the nod over somebody? And Joe Jackson, the same way. We heard so many great things about him, and he's not an or for that third running back spot.
That was going to be my next question to the 2 of you, is because when we talk about the 2 deep, when we talk about guys that maybe we had higher expectations for, or maybe wanted to see on here, I also think of Sterling Lockett in that group, just because he has that pedigree and he has that Lockett name. Not seeing him on here, and some of these other guys like Chidi and whoever, does that make you feel more confident in the depth that we have at each of these positions that we maybe expected to see some other names in? Or does it make you more concerned about the depth? Because I saw some conversation on KSO about, like, does this make us a little concerned that Jack Fabris is the guy that's listed in the 2 deep at safety? Or does it make you more confident in that position group and how that depth is working out with how it's gone in fall camp so far?
For me, I think it's the true definition of depth. I mean, that's the word. If you're hearing more names and you're seeing different names, that means you are deeper. You have more names to go on. So I'm not concerned with for my preference of who I think is better, but I'm not there. So, but for me, who I think has the higher pedigree, and if they're not mentioned, does that concern me for the individual player? Yes. But for as a team, if you're seeing different names rise to the top and the player you thought wasn't there, that means it's deep. So if you're seeing a true freshman up there, they're doing something right. And Coach Kleiman said that Jack Fravers was nicked up, and that was the reason why he was not getting his name mentioned. So maybe he's fully healthy and he is rising to the top. It could be a multitude of things. So the depth for me, when you see a Shane Porter instead of a Seth Porter, who's a senior, does that mean Shane Porter has stepped up immensely? He obviously has a role model in his brother. Seth caught passes in the Missouri game last year. So it's depth for me, no matter who it is. If you're rising to the top and you're hearing more names, that's what true depth is.
I think another thing to consider as well, and I have no statistical analysis about this, but if we look at the past 2 seasons and the 2 deep depth chart that's released 4 days prior to the game, and how many snaps, like if you're calculating the number of snaps that everybody takes, we're probably we're overthinking this because of the amount that we do substitute is fairly high. I mean, we substitute players at a pretty good clip, I would say. And so there's no doubt in my mind that there are going to be people on the 3 deep that we don't see here that are going to play snaps this weekend. There's a part of me that thinks we have to release this because everybody else does, and maybe this isn't actually the depth chart. I don't know, but maybe I have to spend Monday and just go through every single snap or something, and like how many times these guys play, on the field. That's been always my thing when looking at depth charts and, just seeing, I mean, especially on the defensive line and in the linebacker positions, like I'm expecting we're going to see a good chunk of players in those positions this weekend. Just because of the way that historically we substitute on first down, second down, third down, etc. We just roll a lot of players through, which is great because then you're going to have guys who aren't necessarily drained energy wise. And it's prepping them, of course, for Big 12 play. But I mean, the 2 deep shows, okay, in the first quarter, we're probably going to see these players. That's just my outlook on it. But it's really like the way things go in these games, I would not be surprised if some of the names that you said, Chef, they're going to be out on the field. Like they're going to be in for some snaps. And that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes the first game, if you sit there for all 4 quarters, which some people don't, which is totally fine. But, you sit there for all 4 quarters, there's going to be a lot of names that people are like, who the heck is this person? And that always happens. So.
And it's let me put it this way. You love basketball. I love basketball. At the beginning of the season, that rotation is 10 deep. You want to see everybody and what they can do to when you hone it down and you're in the dog days of the season, who can you rely on? These very few first games, you're going to see the snap counts. And luckily what you want to find out, they do that on KSO. After the games, they do snap counts. So head on over to KSO. But to see rotations dispersed evenly is not going to be an uncommon thing in these first few games, like you were saying. But when it starts getting to the nitty gritty after that Mizzou game or right before the Mizzou game, you're going to see it starting to tighten up, and that's when you might see a true 2 deep of who's going to be playing the majority of the snaps.
I don't disagree with you. I think that you're 100% on the money. I think everybody gets excited for the first game depth chart because it shows how actually close the first game is, like the fact that the season's starting on Saturday. But, I'll take a look at it and I'm like, oh, this looks, you'll see some names on there. You're like, that's interesting. But I would say like the UCF game, maybe even the Missouri game, that's going to be a true sense of these are the guys that we're relying on for a majority of the plays this season. And that's that.
So I guess we've talked a little bit about Jack Fabris at Jack safety. Were there any other guys that stood out to you or surprised you about this two deep, or any other guys that you got excited about when looking at the two deep?
For me, I mean, there's a lot of names. It's just you get excited for the freshmen, but just the names that we're used to seeing in and out, day in, day out, season after season. This O-line is going to be solid. And true to form, Matt, it might not just be a token symbol of them saying, hey, this is what everybody else is doing, because they left off Christian Duffy. They left off Uso. So maybe this is what the true two deep is. And you see Carver Willis at that right tackle. We kind of thought what is going to be the best O-line and what they're going to put out there. Carver Willis has solidified himself at right tackle in the replacement for Christian Duffy. That O-line is looking very strong, very fucking big. So big. I remember the depth charts when Kleiman first was, well, maybe not when he first got there, but, when Noah Johnson takes over, he's 270. And you were like, damn, our center is 270. But now, I mean, you're seeing 330, 335. 300 again, 291. It's a very, very salty lineup. You got oars everywhere. Is the oars confusing? I mean, not confusing, but like surprising how many oars there were. I mean, it's not. Who was the team that had 29 oars in the Big 12? There was a team.
Somebody was keeping track.
That's Adam Schefter's worst nightmare.
There was 29 oars on a Big 12 roster. We had 10. But, I mean, geez Louise, that O-line, that's what I took away from it. I'm just excited to see those hog mollies get after it.
Yeah.
You don't like hog mollies? God damn.
No, I just wasn't expecting that. There's a couple notes I'll make. Kick returner was one to see Keegan Johnson, excuse me. Going to be back there with Phillip Brooks. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a surprise, but yet again, kind of puts the point of we have a wide receiver who's going to be back there. Obviously shows his speed and agility. So somebody that, Keegan sounds like somebody who took that and kind of ran with it. The other one that makes me a little bit nervous, as I always look at worst case scenarios, because that is me. So Kobe Savage is obviously going to be the starter at strong safety, but Matthew Amashmeyer, who is a junior from Naperville, Illinois, so right outside of Chicago, he is a name that I have not heard too much about. And so obviously in the two deep, that's great. But we saw with Kobe Savage last season, the last few games of the year after he got hurt, it was kind of we were putting the puzzle pieces together. So for as much as the two deep is kind of looking at, who's going to be potentially playing second string, we got to prep for worst case scenarios sometimes. So he was a name that I hadn't actually really heard too much about. So obviously has shown a lot here in fall camp to be on the two deep at strong safety. And a part of me thinks that even though Kobe Savage is probably going to be 100% for this game on Saturday, I would bet he doesn't maybe play as much as we think he will, just to ease himself back in for this game, to prep for Troy, Missouri, etc. Even though he's probably at 100%, but it takes a little bit of time, to get your legs into speed. So just something to keep in mind as well.
Similar to that Khalid Duke, how, he came back from the injury. It took him a while, but Kobe's vastly improved his timetable. But, we did the same thing for Khalid Duke. We put him at a new position. but we eased him in. Plays every so often. Des Purnell comes in there, Des Purnell comes in, subs him out, and lets him get his knee accustomed to playing again. My question, I don't know if you were going to ask this, Bob, but how short of a leash are we giving Chris Tennant? Because we had an oar behind him with two other kickers. For me, I think this is Chris Tennant's job. I want to see how he's kicking. What do the kicks look like? Because if they're high archers, I'm excited for that. But if he's doing those, line drives that are slicing, like my drives back in 2019 off the tee at Split Rock, I'm going to be nervous, and my leash will be shorter for Chris Tennant then. But if he's looking good, it's his job.
It's Chris Tennant's job to lose, right? Like, he started off the season as the starter last year. He's starting off the season this year as the starter as well. But it's his job to lose. I think it's a job that you can easily lose as a kicker, because if you come out the gate and you're not performing to the standard that we expect, because we've got a great history of great field goal kicking at K-State, you could lose it really quickly. And we saw him do that last year. So it kind of brings me back to one of the things we talked about last week with Jack Cantelli and how he sat behind. I already forgot the name of the dude he sat behind, but he sat behind someone in the 2013 season. Ian Patterson. And then he came in 2014 and was the guy. And with the exception of the Auburn game, really had a great career at K-State. But then you had that Auburn game, and then he did lose that job again for a certain period of time. And there was a lot of backlash. So I think it's his job to lose. I hope and pray that he's the guy that stays through the entire season, and that we don't have to get to a point where we are seeing someone else kick field goals. But if he messes up in the first 2-3 games, I really hope Leighton Simmering or Simon McClannon are good at field goal kicking.
Do you want to see him get opportunities? Because, if we're crushing teams, do you want to see us not get a third down conversion when you're up 30 to see him kicking in game time? You want to see him get those field goals early, don't you?
I mean, you're not going to put yourself in a position where you're going to try and score a touchdown every single time. I do hope in the game on Saturday, as much as we want to score touchdowns, I don't see us scoring a touchdown on every drive. Maybe we will, who knows? But
maybe
it's, if we get into a position where you have a 40-yard field goal, you need to be making these. You have to.
Yeah.
I think it's not just confidence as an individual, but you want the team to be confident in you as well. And then everybody there, we saw what happened last year. And I really want him to come back and have kind of a revitalized season, and not necessarily be looking over his shoulder, because it's hard for me to see how we can trust a redshirt freshman or a true freshman during a season where we're trying to win a Big 12 conference championship. I mean, maybe they are just really good, but I hope that he can come through. He's making his extra points and making the easy field goals. And I don't know. I hope he does
to do it.
Yeah.
He has the like to do it. There's no reason why he shouldn't be making these field goals. And if anything, he just needs the confidence. And I almost think about it similar to Will Howard. And Matt, you bring up, you want the people there to be able to see and have the confidence in you that you can make those field goals. It kind of reminds me of when Will Howard came into that Southern Illinois game and we had people chanting for Jake Rubley. You don't want that for a guy's confidence. You want him to be able to come in and deliver. And I'm kind of hoping that Chris Tennant can have a similar career trajectory to what Will Howard has had, where he was doubted by the fan base. And he had those moments where fans were maybe chanting for the guy behind him to be doing his job. But he comes in, he has that confidence, he shakes off the cobwebs, and he gets it done. That's a better story than he comes in, he misses a field goal, and then he loses the job. I'd much rather have him come in, redeem himself, and endear himself to the fan base in the same way that we've seen with Will Howard this year and last year.
And they're both units.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Chris Tennant could be a tight end on this team. He's 6'5", 222.
Golly, boy, that gets the blood flowing.
Yo, I'll bet he can fit in that women's basketball practice jersey.
I don't know. That thing is little. Little
Put
jersey.
it on.
No, don't.
For the
Don't
fans.
you dare.
It's not reversible like mine, is it?
Oh, it is reversible.
I couldn't
Maybe
even find a 32
Maybe
yet,
the
so.
white's not the best idea. Maybe you should go with the purple side.
No, that's good. That's good.
Team Wade.
It's Dean Wade.
Boy, look at that dumper back there, girl.
Oh, oh my God. Now people are like, oh, we got to watch the YouTube stream to see what he's looking like. But this should only hurt our numbers. So you showing
it'll
off.
make them better.
Yeah, them cheeks, man. We're not the put the
Cocaine Willie OnlyFans coming soon.
Oh,
Damn.
no.
Oh my God.
Where we all just wear women's basketball practice jerseys and do it for money.
Stop.
We can't make money any other way, so we might as well try something different.
Stop.
And for all of us here at Cocaine Willie, thank you for listening to the show on your podcast feeds or watching us on YouTube. Do us a favor. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like on the video. And as always, you can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Cocaine Willie, or follow us individually. I am your commissioner at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier. And Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini. Chef.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
We're all coke and no joke. Wildcat Country, let's beat the shit out of the Semo
Semo.
Red Ox and
Let ride.
Let's ride.
Whoa.